Hi, I am Dr. Penny Stack with Dyslexia RX, and I would like to welcome you, first of all, to April, as April is Occupational Therapy Month. And as promised this month, all the webinars are free and open access to everyone. I feel it's just really important for everyone to really understand how OT integrates with dyslexia. And so tonight, that is the focus of our presentation. It was interesting because as I was creating tonight's presentation, I could just feel this sense of how important this is and how misunderstood this topic often is, especially in the field of dyslexia. So I'm super excited to share this with you, not only as an occupational therapist, but a person who grew up with dyslexia that was not diagnosed, and raising a child of my own who had dyslexia. And truth be told, if you are new to Dyslexia RX or you are new to me, you may not know that I did not even know dyslexia, what the word meant, what it was, until I was in my 40s and my daughter was diagnosed. So it has been a journey of love that started from supporting my own daughter into now I am able to provide support for parents all over. So with no further ado, I will go ahead and get us started. Tonight's topic is OT and the Dyslexia Team. So a few months ago, I was meeting with a group of friends, and this is a group that I've met with consistently, maybe for the past 10 years or so, know them very well. And one of my colleagues in the group said, you know what? I really don't know what you do. And I was just blown away by that because I thought, surely you know what I do. We've been hanging out for months and years. And so it dawned on me that I probably just say OT as if everybody knows what it is. So I thought, let's start here. What is OT? Well, OT is the acronym for occupational therapy. And contrary to the biggest myth in the world, we do not find people jobs, although we can support that. That is not really our primary role. Our founders named our field occupational therapy because occupational therapists will support those things that occupy your time. Now, this might be different for different people, and also it depends on the stage of your life. So we can work with individuals throughout the lifespan, from prenatal all the way to older adults, supporting the things that you love to do and maybe things you're not so in love with doing. And what I mean by that, when we think about a child's primary role is to grow and develop. And when they are in school, that is their job. And their main occupation is to play. And there are things that can interrupt this very natural, organic process that they need to do to go through life. They could be born with some delays. They may have some genetic delays. They may have experienced a life-altering event through their childhood. Maybe they've had a broken leg, or maybe they've had something more significant, but something has maybe interfered with their ability to keep up with their peers or do things that they enjoy doing or playing. And dyslexia certainly is one of those things. So how do occupational therapists support people in engaging in their occupation? Well, again, depending upon what happened and where you might be to receive services, we may do rehabilitation, we may provide adaptive techniques, or we may provide compensatory strategies. When you think about an occupational therapist when it comes to children, you typically will find an occupational therapist in the school system. And to receive occupational therapy in the school system, you need to have a formal evaluation by the special education team. And you will go through a individual educational plan or an IEP. And some states will allow an occupational therapist to participate in a 504, which is more of accommodations and treatment. And an occupational therapist role in the school is to help your child engage back into the classroom. And so often this is done with compensatory strategies, helping children, especially in elementary school, process the world around them, learn how to use fine motor coordination, cut with scissors, right? Use of crayon or a pencil and things of that nature. If you see if your child sees an occupational therapist by a pediatric therapist that's outside of the school, that might be at a pediatric outpatient clinic, and they may approach working with your child really differently. So here's more of a medical model where they may take you through activities, games, exercises. So maybe your child can have better balance sitting in a chair, or maybe they can climb better, or maybe they can engage with a group of other kiddos and play with them and not be overwhelmed. So there's a variety of activities and issues that an occupational therapist can address in general that support children and support children's learning. The other thing I would like to be mindful of when I'm talking about this topic is when a child has dyslexia, they grow up to be an adult with dyslexia. Dyslexia is not curable, but it certainly is treatable. So what's the difference, right? If you're getting therapy, shouldn't that cure it? Well, dyslexia is the lack of typical neurodevelopment in the brain. And so we can't get that back, but we can reroute the brain. And so this may increase processing speed, it may increase memory or another skill required to participate in reading, and that way the child can improve. But they'll still grow up to be an adult with dyslexia, and that's really important because an occupational therapist can work with adults as well, with all sorts of different abilities or difficulties or challenges. And you may find an occupational therapist at a rehabilitation center, a hospital, an outpatient clinic. You may find them in a mental health setting. So occupational therapy is very broad. And we are what I like to think the pregame to reading and learning support. So again, how does this even tie to dyslexia? Because when we think about dyslexia, what do we think about? Oh, my kiddo has difficulty reading. They're having problems spelling. They read or write letters and numbers backwards. They study so hard, but by the end of the week, they can't remember what they learned. And they're struggling in school, their grades are going down, they're putting in a lot of effort, they study 2 or 3 hours at home, but it doesn't show on their results of their work that they're putting in this effort, and the teacher said that there's something wrong, so we're going to go to tutoring, we're going to repeat a grade, we're going to go to reading remediation, and all of these are great support for somebody who's having academic difficulties. But what about when that doesn't work? And what about the foundational skills that are required? So I'm going to say this, and I used to say this with a lot of hesitation, and now I say it with the utmost conviction, and that is dyslexia is not only about reading. I'll say it again. Dyslexia is not only about reading. And this is so important because when we have a child come to us that's having difficulty in reading, I think the first thing we think of is, oh, well, let's go get some tutoring, or let's get extra help, or the school can support my child. And after A, B, and C, they'll be able to read. And once they're able to read, everything will be fine. Research says that is not the case. The characteristics of dyslexia, or what it does to a person, goes well beyond reading. It impacts their self-esteem, choices they make, how they express their feelings, whether in written form or verbally, how they receive that, how they interpret friendship and relationships, other people's perceptions of them. And it also impacts their dreams and their goals and their relationships. There's also a belief out there that dyslexia is a gift. And from living with dyslexia and raising a child with dyslexia, what I will say is my opinion, is not a gift. No one chooses to struggle that hard to just get through what everybody else can easily do. No, that's not a choice. And to me, that is not a gift. But then the other side of that is you will hear people say, oh, but this person's dyslexic, so they're very creative, they're very talented, they're very business savvy, they're entrepreneurs. Yes, to all of that. But the reason they gravitate toward that is because they had somebody in their life that supported the things that they are really good at and let them pursue it and didn't put them in a square peg in a round hole situation. Why are they entrepreneurs? Because they love to create. And research shows that the majority of entrepreneurs have dyslexia. So this impacts your entire life. And so it's really important that when we are working with a child who has dyslexia, or a family for that matter, that we're supporting the whole person. Okay, so we're supporting the whole person, but how are we doing that if we have somebody with dyslexia and they are being serviced exclusively by an educator? I think an educator is key, but it takes a team. And occupational therapy is part of that team. When you think about the high prevalence rate of people with dyslexia who have depression, anxiety, and suicide attempts, that's a big deal. And we want to meet the person where they are. And this is all well within the scope of practice of what your occupational therapy provider can do for you and your family. So just like I was mentioning, we have to have foundational skills. So I want to take you back to that time where you were expecting your child, whether that was through adoption or extended family, or this was something you planned and you had the baby. So however this child came into your life, it changed your world. And no matter how that happened, all of us as parents or caregivers or grandparents or foster parents that have had that child, from the depths of our core, we want to provide a good foundation for our child. And what is that? That's love, security, and hope. Those are the foundational traits we want to instill in our children so they can be successful. And so when we think about reading is a really high level skill. It is not natural. It doesn't come to us naturally. It has to be taught. Our brain is so complex. It is the control center of everything we do, from breathing, our heart beating, taking a step, to me holding this pencil. My brain does all the work, and it does it so fast. I don't have to think about, oh, I'm going to hold that pencil, so I need to reach my hand forward, open my hand, grab the pencil, close it. Like, I don't even think it through. I just grab it and it's done. That's how fast my brain works. It's a very high level skill. And dyslexia is a language processing disorder. Again, a very high level skill. So let's think about that. In order to do language, you have to be able to process the world around us. So sometimes noise can really cause interruption. Just think of back when you were in school or you're in the office and somebody's clicking their pen. Let me get a pen so it really looks like I'm clicking my pen, right? That's annoying. But for some people, that's enough to shut them down and they cannot focus and cannot move forward. For some people, textures on their skin may really disrupt their ability to function in the world. The way it feels on their skin, or maybe texture of food, or maybe something, wearing a hat, or whatever that might be, the touch of that may be very sensitive. Or maybe it's the lights. Maybe they need lights that are dim or lights that are bright. And so there are all these things that happen in the world that come at us through a sensory path. And most of us process it and we can still function. But some of us have what's called sensory processing disorder, or difficulty with sensory integration. And if that happens, there's no way we are going to be able to keep all this together and be like, okay, I got it, and then attend to learning. It just will not happen. And so you can get all the reading instruction in the world, but if you can't process the world around you, it's going to look like you can't read, or you're having difficulties with reading, when actually it's a sensory processing disorder. And same goes for all the other foundational skills we need for reading. We have to be able to attend to a task. So I often get the question, does my child have ADHD? As an occupational therapist, I'm not a diagnostician and I cannot diagnose as a medical doctor could. But often ADHD and dyslexia are misdiagnosed as the other because they have very similar symptoms. So again, it's important to see a provider who can kind of weed through that and narrow that down for you. You have to have good memory, not goo memory. See that typo right there as I'm looking at it. Good memory. And this is visual and auditory. So we have to remember what we see so we can put letters in the correct order when we spell a sight word. We have to remember what we see so we have good reading comprehension. We have to remember what we hear so we can remember the 3-step directions our teacher gave us in front of the class. Grab your book, grab your pencil and piece of paper, turn to page 35. If you can't remember all those steps, you're already behind in class. You also have to be able to process what we see. Sometimes a characteristic or a sign of difficulty with this would be letter reversals. And that's really important to get that checked out. We have to be able to process what we hear. Ever give your kiddo a direction and they do something completely different and you're thinking, why are they not listening to me? So try this. Next time you give your child a direction, ask them, what did you hear me say? Not what did I say? What did you hear me say? That is so important because if you ask, what did you hear me say? There's no wrong answer. They're going to tell you what you said. And I guarantee you, it may not be anything of what you said. Go get your hat and you turn around, they're petting the cat. This can really be a stumbling block in learning to read and learning in general, which could be an auditory processing disorder. It could be hearing difficulties. When children sit, let me rephrase this. We listen best when we're face to face. If our head's turned because our desk is facing another student's desk and the teacher's in the front of the classroom, we're only hearing out of one ear, that could be an issue. So look at the environment around. Why are we missing instruction? Make sure when we're speaking to our children, they're looking right at us and they're not walking away, turning their head. They may not be hearing what we're saying. They have to have good muscle strength. You're thinking, my goodness, what does muscle strength have to do with reading? Well, it has a lot. We develop in our torso, like our trunk, our body first. And then we develop in our arms down to our fingers. That's called proximal to distal, distal meaning further. If we have low muscle tone or low strength in our trunk, we are going to struggle sitting up. So imagine that you have low tone, you're struggling sitting up, and you're in class and you're expected to write. Do you know how challenging that's going to be? Because that kiddo is doing all they can not to fall over. And now you're asking them to write. So they're trying to stay upright. They are trying to remember how to hold their pencil. They are trying to remember how to write the letter. And my goodness, they can hardly hold on to what they want to write. And this is all taking so much energy that while other children are writing a paragraph or a page, they may have written a sentence. And when we have children that have executive cognitive function deficits or sensory integration deficits, or they have auditory processing disorder or anything else that might be going on, and they are not tested for any of those things, and they are only tested for reading, what will happen more often than not, they will score poorly on their reading assessments. It'll look like they have a reading deficit. It may or may look like they have dyslexia. You can put them through reading remediation, tier 1, 2, or 3, tutoring, retain them. They may improve a little bit, but then they'll decline again. And that gap will keep growing. And you will be pulling your hair out thinking, what is going on? This is what's going on. And really advocating for your child and asking for an occupational therapy assessment at the same time everything else is being assessed can help navigate that treatment, because you'll know, oh, wait, yes, we need reading instruction, but we also need some supportive services like occupational therapy. So that is the link between occupational therapy and dyslexia. Okay. So as I said earlier, occupational therapy, an occupational therapy practitioner should really be on that team. Why? Because it will prepare your child for learning. Think about the Super Bowl. Think about all the pregame stuff they do to get you, amped up for the Super Bowl. Same thing. This lays that foundation and gets your child ready. And so the difference, you have 2 children getting reading instruction. One's had occupational therapy and one has not, and they both needed it. What will happen, the one that did not have occupational therapy may fuss a little more, feel like they're not accomplished. They may be the ones kicking and screaming and crying all the way to the session. And then again, right when the session's over, homework is a struggle. After school time is a nightmare at home. Tears, arguing, yelling, the parents talking to the teacher till they're blue in the face about, we're trying to get homework done, and the teacher saying, I need you to work harder. And there's just this big miscommunication. And somebody that's had occupational therapy, what will happen is they will feel empowered to advocate for themselves. Learning will not be a struggle. They will start reading for pleasure. And all the reading instruction that they get will stick like Velcro, and it will be a permanent change, long-term positive effects. That is the difference between having your executive cognitive functions checked out and checked off versus not. Family time should be enjoyed. I remember, getting off work, picking up a cup of coffee, because I'm going into shift 2 of my day, which is grabbing my daughter from school, coming home and doing homework. And I'm telling you, it was a struggle. There were times I tried to be very patient. There were times I just gave up. There were times I got frustrated. And there isn't a child in the world that doesn't want to please their parent. All children want to please you. They want to feel accomplished. It's human nature. We all do. And so that we get so few minutes with our children, especially if we're working outside of the home, or we have multiple children and we are working in the home, or whatever. Life's busy. The last thing we want to do is have that time fussing. Is there fussing in the home? Yes, we're human beings. It happens. But every day, all the time, constant, and it's always revolving around homework or chores, that doesn't have to be that way. And getting that balance of understanding what is going on, having the right people there to support, understanding how to cope with it all, the whole mental health aspect of it. How does the family come together, and how can occupational therapy support the family through this process? So this can be a picture of your family just like having a good time. This can actually happen. It can be real. That is what we're shooting for. And what's your child going to take away from all this? So you are the best advocate for your child. I've had many parents come to me questioning what other people may have shared with them. Some things have rung true, some things have not. And I went through similar experiences where some reports that people shared with me about my child resonated with me when others just didn't make sense. Trust your intuition. No one knows your child better than you. So go ahead, and if you are not getting the answers that fit or align with your family, it's okay to seek another provider. It's okay to trust your intuition. It's okay to ask what the science is behind what they are working on with your child. These are all great questions to ask. Why? Because your kiddo, in the end, when they're all grown up, they'll remember how you made them feel, how you believed in them, how you supported them, and how you loved them. There's only one set of parents, or one core family, whether that's extended parents, but there's only those precious few. Everything else can be outsourced. And so if I had to do it all over again, and if I had the support that I'm able to provide you, if I would have had that, and I could go back and tell my old self, the best advice I could give myself is just be the parent. Just take a break. Because as the parent, you are that soft place to land. And when I say parent, sometimes that's the grandparent, that's the primary caregiver. Sometimes it's a foster parent. Sometimes it's other family member. So I'm not negating that families are very different, and families can be very different depending upon the home. And so all of this, that family unit is that soft place to land. So if you're choosing between, gosh, I need to drive this home, or always choose soft place to land, you will never, never, ever regret that decision. Why? Because this is the look we're going for, right? I am independent. confident, and brave because of you, and so much more. That's what we want for our children. Whatever that might look like, that's what we're shooting for. Okay, so if you've enjoyed this webinar and you would like to see more, remember April Occupational Therapy Month, all of our webinars are free. And so next week's webinar will be live and free as well. But if you'd like to look at our archive or join us for future webinars, please reach out to dyslexiarx.com and join our community membership. You will have access to all of the prior webinars and a community of like-minded parents and professionals that have been down your road. So until next time, have a great night, and thank you for joining.